Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's your favorite history teacher back at you again with another historical video. Today, you guessed it, finally, we're talking about World War II. So let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. I mean, like right into it. All right. This is a 2 title note day, obvi. We're starting a new unit, new chapter. This is the chapter title, World War II and its Aftermath. World War II and its aftermath. Finally, we're finally talking about World War II. Everyone been waiting so long for it. All right. So from appeasement to war, that is our first section of the chapter. From appeasement to war. Chapter 14, section 1. No skipping chapters this time. That was your warm-up. Objectives. All right. So you'll be able to trace the spread of empires for the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, and Japan. Argue why Western democracies appeased aggressor nations. And understand how appeasement went too far and caused another world war in Europe. World War II begins. So if you recall, after World War I, there was a thing called the League of Nations, and that was like a, quote, general association of nations to keep the peace, world peace, peacekeeping missions. And one of the earliest tests of the League of Nations moxie was in Japan. And the Japanese leaders felt that Japan should have an equal-sized empire to those in Europe, like England, like France. And they wanted the same in Asia. So 1931, Japan seized Manchuria, which is northeast China, the province of Manchuria. 1931, the League of Nations condemned the action by Japan, like, oh, you're a horrible country for doing that. Why would you do that? You have no respect for other people. So Japan leaves the League of Nations, LON. And Japan's easy success in China only strengthened this militarist faction back home. And in 1937, Japanese armies easily overran northeastern China and started a second Sino-Japanese war. Again, Western protests did nothing to stop Japanese action. So the League of Nations was like, no, you can't do that. And Japan said, well, I got guns. Bye. And so to a degree, if this actual start date of World War II happens when Germany invades Poland, and that brings everyone about into the war. I mean, there are other foreign aggressive plans, actions that take place well before 1937. And if you call another country invading another country, or one country invading another country, that was badly worded, one country invading another country and taking it over as in the 30s, then you can almost say that, hey, World War II might have began this time. So it's a strong argument and I don't think I've done it justice virtually, but if we were in class, I mean, I would do a better job. Sorry. But, you know, some people do believe that this is actually the actual beginning of World War II. And this is Japanese expansion before Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941. And this is Japan. This is all Japan. So the new Roman Empire. So Italy had a long history with Ethiopia and Eastern Africa. They were defeated by the Ethiopians in 1896, and that still stunk Italian nationalists. So Mussolini, being the new person in power, right, he is going to take action on his own and invade Ethiopia, or have the Italian army invade Ethiopia in 1935. And Ethiopians resisted, but their outdated weapons were no match for Italy's tanks, machine guns, poison gas, and airplanes. They basically brought World War I to Ethiopia, and Ethiopia could not hang. Ethiopian King Haile Selassie appealed to the League of Nations for help. You know, he flees in secret and goes to the League of Nations headquarters, which I believe was in Switzerland. Extra credit question. Where was the original League of Nations headquarters? And the League chose to sanction Italy, but it had no real authority. And this gets back to the failures of the League of Nations in order to preserve peace, because you have warring nations having aggressive actions, and the League of Nations just says, you owe us money. We're going to fine you $1 million. I don't know, $1 million, whatever Italy uses as their currency. You owe us $1 million of that. They have no standing army. They have no bank to back it up. And, you know, if you don't got an army to stand in my way, move over, Sally. Ethiopia fell early 1936. It was quick. So if you remember, Italy had Somalia and Eritrea in our imperialism DBQ. And so they easily surround Ethiopia and invade Addis Ababa, the capital. That's Haile Selassie. All right, Hitler joins the party. So by now, Hitler began to poke at the will of the Western democracies of Europe, and he's going to find them out to be very weak. In clear defiance of the Versailles Treaty, Hitler rebuilds the German military. In 1936, he will send troops to the demilitarized zone of the Rhineland, the land separating in between France and Germany. Demilitarized means no military can stand in there. It's a free zone of aggressive movement. And he says, no, I'm taking it over. So that's another violation of the Versailles Treaty. And by challenging the Versailles Treaty, it only made him popular at home, just like you could say a young adolescent challenges a teacher in elementary school, and that makes him popular by day by standing up to a teacher. You could say Hitler's standing up to the Versailles Treaty, saying, I'm going to do whatever I want to. And since, because the League of Nations wasn't doing much, they will denounce Germany and adopt this this policy of appeasement, which is giving into the demands of an aggressor in order to keep the peace. What was it? So we're going to do, stop what you're doing, stop taking notes. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little hand gestures to help us remember this term. Yes, I even stopped the lecture. Can you believe that? All right, so our word is appeasement, and we're going to do this kinetically, if you want to call it that. So what I want you to do is, whenever you hear the word appeasement, you should say appeasement, and then this is the motion. Giving in to keep the peace. All right, I would be standing up. Think of me saying it. Appeasement, giving in to keep the peace. All right, yeah. It's a little corny and fun at the same time. And it'll help you memorize the word appeasement. Instead of, giving in to the demands of an aggressor in order to keep the peace, giving in to keep the peace. So hopefully you will remember that from the time you yourself become a history teacher and be like, I had this teacher in high school, Mr. Ovi, and he taught us this one word, and I will never forget it. So we're going to do it to you guys too, in the future. Okay, Germany. This is Germany. This is what it looks like. This is the Rhineland in between France. This is Luxembourg. That's Belgium. That's Holland, Netherlands. The Rhineland, buffer zone. All right. Ooh, that's a lot of red. Sorry. So Western democracies keep the peace. So appeasement happened because France was too weak and couldn't take on Germany without British support. And the British didn't want to take on a German dictator and felt that their small gains were justified because the Versailles Treaty was, in fact, harsh on them. Oh, they want to build up their military and they want to take over this little piece of land? Go ahead. We caused a depression in your country, so, Or was it because of the depression that gave life to Hitler? Think about it. So the British and French thought Hitler's fascism was a defense to a worser evil, Soviet communism, Joseph Stalin. So they actually thought, hey, communism is much worse than fascism. So whatever. And then there's pacifistic ideologies are going to grow. And pacifism is in opposition to another all-out war. The U.S., the United States, will pass neutrality acts, which will forbid the sale of any of arms, guns, weapons, to any nation at war, and it's going to outlaw loans to warring nations, and it's going to prohibit Americans traveling on ships to warring nations. Lusitania recall. And they wanted to avoid another all-out European war involvement because the United States is not in Europe. Fun fact. So you have the Rome, Berlin, Tokyo axis. This is where, So with the appearance of France, Britain, and the United States weaknesses, Germany, Italy, and Japan formed the Rome, Berlin, Tokyo axis, aka this is why they get called the Axis powers in World War II, because there was this agreement. All three nations agreed to fight Soviet communism. They agreed not to interfere with their territorial expansion with one another, especially in Africa. And this agreement gave the three aggressor nations more confidence to take bolder steps. So Hitler, Hideki Tojo, Benito Mussolini. All right, so Spain has a civil war. 1931, trouble started again in Spain when the Spanish king was forced out. A republic was set up with a liberal constitution. However, leftists still wanted radical change, and the conservatives backed by the military did not. So in 1936, conservative general Francisco Franco led a revolt that started a civil war. The fascists of Germany and Italy will support Franco, and they're called the nationalists in the Spanish Civil War. The loyalists were those who wanted a republic. They weren't loyal to the king. All right, that kind of differs from the English Civil War. Anyways, Hitler and Mussolini pledged to support Franco. The USSR sent help to the loyalists, and Britain, France, and the US of A remained neutral. Both sides will commit horrible atrocities, and over 500,000 people will die. And by 1939, Franco had triumphed, and he set up a fascist state in Spain, just like his boys Hitler and Mussolini. Yeah. I want to say this is a test question, so I'm going to leave it there. Yeah. This is Francisco Franco. All right, so Hitler strengthens his Third Reich. He set out to bring all German-speaking people into the Third Reich, his third empire. At the same time, he set out to add more Lebensraum. Say that word with me, Lebensraum. One more, Lebensraum. And that is living space for his growing empire. Hitler believed that the superiority of the Aryan race should conquer the inferior Slavic race to the east, i.e., Soviet Union. You have Anschluss, where Nazi propaganda had found favor in Austria. Remember, Anschluss is the agreement or relationship between Austria and Germany in 1938. Austrian-born German dictator Adolf Hitler prepared to engineer Anschluss, the union of Austria and Germany. When Hitler forced the Austrian chancellor to appoint Nazis to cabinet positions, he refused. So Hitler is going to send in his army to keep order. He's going to give a speech to indicate his new rule as ruler of Austria. They're going to have a vote. And in that vote, it's going to say, do you support Adolf Hitler, yes or no? And by marking yes, that means you want Hitler to be your next leader. So nice wording there, Adolf. Anschluss violated the Versailles Treaty. Austrians favored annexation, and the Western powers did nothing again. Then you have the Czech question. Hitler will turn to Czechoslovakia. He proclaimed that 3 million Germans were living in the Sudetenland, which is the region of Western Czechoslovakia. And he is going to argue for their autonomy. Czechoslovakia remained one of the two democracies still left in Eastern Europe, but Britain and France were not willing to go to war to save it. Although they will seek out for a peaceful situation, Hitler will demand more, and annexation of the Sudetenland by Germany actually happens. So this is Germany. This is the Rhineland. Austria down to the south, and this is the Sudetenland. I mean, fair enough. I mean, this used to be the former, German Empire. And so when they lost in World War I, they had to flee, right? So, yeah. So you have the Munich Conference, September 1938. British and French leaders again choose to appease Hitler. They will again give in to the demands of Hitler, appeasement, and persuaded Czechs to give the Sudetenland, Estland, to Germany. In exchange, Hitler oh my God, he pinky promised, guys, he pinky promised to never grow his Third Reich after getting the Sudetenland. That guy, can you believe it? He promised. Oh, nice guy. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain returned to Britain claiming peace for our time. French leader Edouard Daladier was not very happy. And British politician Winston Churchill, future prime minister during World War II, warned them about the Nazi threat and that Hitler should be taken more seriously than what Neville Chamberlain did. This is Neville Chamberlain saying, I have his promise. And this is a little, what do you call it? This is, I wouldn't say this is a meme because this is just the NCAA tournament saying, I know the winners. I know in my heart of hearts that Adolf Hitler means what he says. That's our guy, Edouard Daladier, looks very pissed off. And that's Winston Churchill. I don't know why I just barked. Lies, hashtag lies. By 1939, Hitler had gobbled up, gobble up the rest of Czechoslovakia. Western democracies finally realized that appeasement had failed. They both promised to protect Poland, the most likely next target of Hitler's expansion. They have something called the Nazi-Soviet Pact, where Hitler stunned the world when he made a non-aggression agreement, a non-aggression pact with Joseph Stalin, his forever enemy. Remember, fascists are the enemies. Their natural enemies are the communists, and he just made a deal with the communists. Something's up. So the Nazi-Soviet Pact bound Hitler and Stalin to peaceful relations. Secretly, they would agree to divide up Poland and Eastern Europe together, and they would not fight each other if the other went to war. Hitler feared communism just as much as Stalin feared fascism, and Hitler wanted the free hand in Poland. He didn't want to fight Western democracies and the Soviet Union at the same time. That's why he made this agreement. Because the two-front war did not work out in Germany's, Germany's favor in World War I. So trying to learn from that mistake, we don't need to fight a two-front war. Let's just take over Western Europe. And by joining Hitler, he prevented war with Germany and created a chance to grab more land in Eastern Europe. This is Stalin. By Stalin joining with Hitler, prevented war with Germany and created a chance to grab more land in Eastern Europe. And this is a political cartoon of Daddy Stalin and Adolf Hitler having an agreement between the two, and they're stepping on Poland, but they both got a gun behind their backs because they don't trust each other. And this is some other political cartoons. Adolf Hitler marrying Joseph Stalin. And why do you think Joseph Stalin is portrayed as the wife? If you said because women in marriages at this time are seen as the weak ones, where you have the all-powerful husband, and whatever the husband says, the woman must do. Anyway, so war we go again. September 1st, 1939, a week after the Nazi-Soviet Pact was signed, German forces invaded Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany, and World War II historically begins with these two declarations of war. Wow. So that concludes your notes for the day. I forgot to get your homework. Oh, Mr. Ovalle, not having everything together. My God. Anywho, your homework is to do page 465, 3 through 5. 465, 3 through 5. So hopefully you did enjoy that. Sorry, it was a little bit longer than usual. This chapter is heavy, and for world history, it's very heavy. So our lectures are going to be almost 30 minutes long. All right, especially tomorrow and the following day's lectures. Section 2, Section 3, they're pretty big. So yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you smash that like button. And as always, stay safe and wash your hands. Peace.